Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Drones sighted at 26 locations ranging from Baramulla to Bhuj, along both international border and the line of control with Pakistan. Prompt action is being taken wherever necessary. India questions effectiveness of the ongoing IMF assistance to Pakistan, says Pakistan continues to sponsor cross-border terrorism. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds a high-level meeting at his residence. India continues to garner support for its resolute response. The 27-member EU bloc issues a strong statement. Well, drones have been sighted at 26 locations ranging from Baramulla in the north to Bhuj in the south and along both the international border and the line of control with Pakistan. These include suspected armed drones posing potential threats to civilian as well as military targets. The locations include Baramulla, Srinagar, Avantipora, Nagrota, Jammu, Firozpur, Pathankot, Fazilka, Lalgarh, Jatta, Jaisalmer, Barmer, Bhuj, Corbett and Lucky Nala. Now, regrettably, an armed drone targeted a civilian area in Firozpur, resulting in severe injuries to members of a local family. The injured have been provided medical assistance and the area has been sensitized by security forces. The Indian Armed Forces are maintaining a high state of alert and all such aerial threats are being tracked and engaged using counter-drone systems. The situation is under close and constant watch and prompt action is being taken wherever necessary. Citizens, especially in the border areas, they are advised to remain indoors, to limit unnecessary movement and also to strictly follow safety instructions issued by local authorities. While there is no need for panic, heightened vigilance and precaution are essential. Earlier, the Indian Armed Forces thwarted all attempts by Pakistan to target northern and western cities using drones and missiles. Last night, the Indian Army shared a video and said that Pakistan troops also resorted to numerous ceasefire violations along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. The drone attacks were effectively repulsed and a befitting reply was given to the ceasefire violations. Now, the Indian Army remains committed to safeguarding the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the nation, and all nefarious designs will be responded to with force. According to the headquarters Integrated Defence Staff, 8 missiles from Pakistan were directed at Satwari, Samba, Arispura and Arnya of Jammu and Kashmir. All missiles were intercepted and blocked by air defence units. Now, India has abstained from voting on Pakistan's bailout package at the IMF meeting. The International Monetary Fund took note of India's abstention from the vote. The IMF reviewed the extended fund facility lending program and also considered a fresh resilience and sustainability facility lending program of $1.3 billion for Pakistan. India raised concerns over the efficacy of the IMF programs in case of Pakistan given its poor track record, and also on the possibility of misuse of debt financing funds for state-sponsored cross-border terrorism. India pointed out that rewarding continued sponsorship of cross-border terrorism sends a dangerous message to the global community, exposes funding agencies and donors to reputational risks, and makes a mockery of global values. Now, let's take a look at why India abstained from the IMF vote on the Pakistan loan. So, India abstained from this recent IMF vote on approving a loan to Pakistan, not due to a lack of opposition, but because IMF rules do not permit a formal no vote. Now, by abstaining, India conveyed its strong dissent within the constraints of the IMF's voting system and used the opportunity to formally record its objections. And these are India's objections. India questioned the effectiveness of the ongoing IMF assistance, noting that Pakistan has received support in 28 of the past 35 years, including 4 programs in just the last 5 years, without meaningful or lasting reform. India strongly highlighted the Pakistani military's continued dominance in economic affairs, which undermines transparency, civilian oversight, and sustainable reform. India firmly opposed providing funds to a country that continues to sponsor cross-border terrorism, warning that such support carries reputational risks for global institutions and undermines international norms. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting at his residence in the national capital. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was there, the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, the Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan, and the chiefs of all 3 armed forces were present at this meeting. And we have Jessica Taneja with us in the studio on the latest on the IMF. We're also joined by Captain Alok Bansal, Director of the India Foundation. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. Jessica, why did India abstain?
Well, Mark, it's as simple as there is no other vote where they can say no. So it's either abstention or you vote in favor of it, and there's a reason for that. Like with the United Nations, each member nation has a vote. But when it comes to IMF loan disbursal or other economic activities and engagements, a large say is given to countries based on their economic heft. And that perhaps, say for example, countries like the United States, which have a major say when it comes to these loans. So just to give an example there, where India did not have an option to say no, it was either absent or it was either, or no. So perhaps there was not much, that could be done in terms of where India would sort of look at a position from the fact that you need to prevent this kind of loan to be given to Pakistan time and again, and we know where it goes. They will not be able to service their external debt, which currently is at $130 billion, pretty significant for a country which is reeling under economic pressure, whose GDP growth is roughly over 2% mark. A population which is about 42% middle income is below poverty line, 2.6 million people, suffering at this point, not being able to get any kind of economic, forget gains, but basics, that the civilians deserve, with the kind of dispensation, the military dispensation, and its widespread outreach on not just the defense, but also the economic, decisions of the country.
Indeed. Thanks, Jessica, for that input. And now let's go across to Captain Alok Bansal. Dr. Bansal, so the Pakistanis continue to use drones as the latest means in this modern warfare. They are setting themselves up for another strong response from India, one would say.
See, there is no doubt that Pakistan realizes that it's a weaker power, and I think drones give it an ideal tool for use for asymmetric warfare. And we also need to understand Pakistan's military realizes that it does not have the wherewithal to take on Indian military. They don't have the military capabilities or the economic wherewithal. But given the salience in the body politic of Pakistan, Pakistan's military has to show to the public that they are taking some action. And consequently, they resort to actions which are generally seen and heard, using artillery shells or using missiles or drones, which the public at large sees and feels contented, yes, their army is doing something. So that's the provision that they have been doing. They have been hoping that the international community would intervene and bring this conflict to a closure, because they realize they don't have ammunition after a few days. Also, they have tried to project to the international community that this could lead to nuclear holocaust because both the countries are nuclear armed, all these things, but they have failed to elicit the necessary response from the international community. The latest input from US saying that it is none of our business has further demotivated them, and as a result what has happened is that they are indulging in these activities and targeting civilian population. They're hoping that India could agree to this sort of a ceasefire. But I don't think so. India is going to agree to that. India would give them a befitting reply. And since they are targeting both military and civilian targets, we would definitely target their military targets.
Indeed, Dr. Bansal, and given the fact that India is probably likely to give a strong response, what do you think, from India's point of view, would be the right kind of response at this stage, given the fact also that India has succeeded in whatever it has done currently, with precision strikes, and even taken out some of the radar systems in Pakistan?
I think since they are indulging in artillery firing and drones, I think at this moment it would be prudent for us to indulge in artillery firing and drone attacks itself, because that itself would be enough for Pakistan. I think we could target some of their major airports like Lahore, etc., where civilian population is also impacted by the attack on the airport. Without targeting the civilian personnel, we could actually take that airport, make it inoperative. That alone would actually affect both the civilian population as well as the military wherewithal. We could take other actions, but it is my earnest belief that more this conflict gets prolonged, more it is going to be debilitating for Pakistan. Because Pakistan will find it increasingly difficult with the passage of time to get the economic sustenance as well as military hardware to pursue this conflict unabated.
So India has been successful in downing most of the drones yesterday and probably today as well. But what's the most cost-effective measure in dealing with this? Because India can't be, using anti-missiles systems for bringing down drones. What do you think, is the best approach? Most of these drones are also coming from very close to the border, and perhaps, neutralizing them close to the border itself is the best way.
Yeah, we could look at firing at them with small arms. We could also look at non-conventional methods. If they are coming low, then we could probably have balloons, wires, etc. That could also be tried. But I think the optimal system would be to target them with
jamming.
guns.
What about jamming them?
Yeah, that's another thing. Not only jamming, we could use laser guns against them also. That is another factor that we can use, where they could be burnt by using laser guns, or they could be damaged by using laser guns. That's another option that we could look at it. But using missiles to target a drone, of course, is not cost effective. It doesn't really help us, and probably Pakistan wants us to spend our missiles in trying to deal with this. That's why day after day it is trying to send these drones, probably trying to see our air defense preparedness before it launches airstrikes. So we have to be very, very vigilant and be ready to take as and when Pakistan tries the misadventure of sending an aircraft.
Finally, Dr. Bansal, the IMF seems to have passed Pakistan's loans. Of course, they are meant for economic survival of Pakistan. But, India's concerns are quite genuine in the sense that we fear that Pakistan will utilize or misutilize these funds for their nefarious activities.
See, firstly, we need to understand that this was only a tranche. So, having approved IMF, having approved a loan for Pakistan, it would have found itself in a precarious position if they had not sanctioned this, because whatever they had already disbursed would have been at some risk. That is the first part. The second is that IMF does what the West primarily wants, and it clearly shows that United States, which made a statement it is none of our business, is really not interested in what's happening in this part of the world and is actually looking after purely its own business interests. So it is not really interested in a country that has been sponsoring terror and to try and victimize it or to try to pressurize it into mending its ways by putting certain economic conditionalities, which they have not really done so.
Indeed, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Captain Alok Bansal, Dr. Alok Bansal. Thank you for joining us and helping us to understand the nefarious designs of Pakistan and India's continued resolute response. Jessica is still with us. Jessica, Pakistan getting the loan in the end, what does that imply in terms of the IMF structure?
Well, there is an external debt that Pakistan has to service in some time now, and there is a deadline to it as well. This was supposed to be a 37-year, if I'm not wrong, IMF bailout package, which was initiated in March last year. And there were certain conditions as well to it, Mark, primarily that these funds will be utilized to initiate, or to strengthen the public sector, to bring in macroeconomic reforms, to have some political stability, to have those, fiscal reforms in the country, which would put it on, a trajectory where it's would witness, if not economic growth, but some progress, so to say. But all it has seen is, an economic growth of over just 2%. So things are difficult. And if they continue to escalate, if Pakistan continues to escalate, things are only going to go in downward spiral from here on, because again, a lot of that money, instead of going for welfare schemes or to strengthen the economy, would go into funding this war that Pakistan has waged. So perhaps this escalation is going to cost them much more, even though there are conditions where, Pakistan has time and again been reminded that they haven't been worked upon. And it's not just the Pakistan polity that is blamed, but the entire mismanagement of funds that is never taken into account is perhaps what Pakistan would have to take into consideration this time before taking these escalatory measures, that this is going to have a massive, impact on their economy, which is already reeling with inflation. I mean, the ordinary Pakistanis, to afford basic things, the cost of living is going up, basic food item prices have gone up, their agriculture economy is suffering. Remember, Pakistan is heavily dependent on its agriculture. So if that is going to continue to suffer with no reforms in sight, it certainly is going to be a difficult spectacle that Pakistan is sponsoring for itself right now.
Thank you very much, Jessica Taneja, for joining us with those inputs. Now, world leaders and prominent international figures have expressed strong support for India's Operation Sindoor, a precise military strike conducted against terrorist camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir on May 7. Western allies, including UK, France and the US, have firmly backed India's right to defend itself. Here's the report.
India's approach has earned it a strong backing from the international community to counter terrorism after it launched Operation Sindoor. UK Foreign Minister David Lammy said India had every reason to be outraged, while former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak asserted that no country should tolerate cross-border terror. The US President Donald Trump expressed solidarity with India, affirming its sovereign right to combat terrorism, while also urging restraint and a diplomatic path forward. The European Union and all 27 member states issued a unified, strong statement. Russia, while calling for restraint from both sides, made it clear that it condemns all forms of terrorism and is deeply concerned about the military escalation. The countries including USA, UK, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar and UAE have supported India's position. Israel also stood firmly with India. Its ambassador remarked that terrorists have no sanctuary and supported India's right to defend itself. Global leaders know that India did not strike first and it only responded to terror. Operation Sindoor sends a strong and stern message that India will not stay silent in the face of terrorism and will act whenever needed. but always with care. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, Pakistan boasts of war readiness, but in reality, something is quite different. Pakistan, in fact, India's response to the Pahalgam terror attack has dealt a strong blow to Pakistan's struggling economy. Bans on Pakistani ships, imports, as well as postal services have hit home hard Pakistan. Let's look at Raghav Kumar Jha's report.
Struggling with a wrecked economy, Pakistan faces significant challenges like rising poverty, high inflation, and persistent debt issues. The country's economy has been badly impacted by factors like the COVID-19 pandemic, inflation, poor economic development, corruption, political unrest, and the effects of Russia-Ukraine war. According to reports, Pakistan has foreign exchange reserves of only $13.15 billion, whereas it has to pay foreign debts of $26 billion in the financial year 2025-26. Pakistan's GDP is at $338.37 billion, and it has only enough money to import goods for 2 months. In fact, Pakistan's economy is in shambles. A persistently high current account deficit and external debt obligations drained its foreign exchange reserves. By 2023, the country faced a severe balance of payment crisis, with reserves falling below $4 billion, enough for just a few weeks of imports. Pakistan is heavily reliant on external aid, particularly from the United States, China, and the international financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund or IMF. Pakistan's exports base remained narrow while imports grew consistently. Periodic IMF bailouts, more than 20 programs since 1980s, became a hallmark of Pakistan's economic policy. Each bailout brought temporary stability, but structural reforms were either delayed or diluted due to corruption. However, this is not the end of Pakistan's economic woes. The tougher times are ahead as India's retaliatory steps in the aftermath of Pahalgam terror attack threaten to break its crucial economic support links. India has imposed a blanket ban on direct or indirect import and transit of all goods originating in or exported from Pakistan following the closure of the Wagah-Attari trade route. The halt is likely to disrupt Pakistan's pharmaceutical, chemical, and food sectors, which depend heavily on Indian inputs. Informal trade via third countries like the UAE and Singapore will also come under strain due to heightened security and costs. India has barred all ships bearing the Pakistani flag from entering Indian ports and has suspended all maritime activities. Also, all postal and courier services in Pakistan stand suspended. Against this backdrop, the global rating agency Moody's has also warned Pakistan. The rating agency said on Monday that a sustained escalation in tensions with India would likely hit Pakistan's economy and hamper the government's ongoing fiscal consolidation. It warned the Indo-Pak tensions could impair Pakistan's access to external financing and put foreign exchange reserves, which is significantly low to meet existing debts, under severe stress. Amidst an economic crisis ridden by low reserves and high debts, Pakistan is running the country taking loans from the IMF. Against this backdrop, if Pakistan wages war with India, it will have to spend an estimated $1.5 to $3.2 million per day or $45 to $96 million per month, putting considerable pressure on Pakistan's defense budget of $7.64 billion. Amidst all this, how Pakistan will handle all this extraordinary stress on its economy is $1 million question. Raghav Kumar Jha for DD India.
Well, Pakistan had attempted infiltration at 36 locations from Leh to Sir Creek last night, but by using around 400 drones. Now, the Indian Armed Forces shot down many of these drones using kinetic as well as non-kinetic means. In a special briefing in Delhi, the Colonel Sophia Qureshi of the Indian Army, she said that on the night of the 7th and 8th of May, the Pakistani Army violated India's airspace several times over the entire western border with the intention of targeting military infrastructure.
8 से 9 मई 2025 की मध्य रात्रि को पाकिस्तानी सेना ने सैन्य बुनियादी ढांचे को निशाना बनाने के इरादे से पूरी पश्चिमी सेना पर भारतीय वायु क्षेत्र का कई बार उल्लंघन किया। यही नहीं बल्कि पाकिस्तानी सेना ने नियंत्रण रेखा पर भारी कैलिबर वाले हथियारों से गोलीबारी भी की। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सीमा और नियंत्रण रेखा पर लेह से लेकर सर क्रीक तक 36 स्थानों पर 300 से 400 लगभग ड्रोनों का इस्तेमाल घुसपैठ का प्रयास करने के लिए किया गया। भारतीय सशस्त्र बलों ने काइनेटिक्स व नॉन काइनेटिक साधनों का उपयोग करके इनमें से कई ड्रोन्स को मार गिराया।
But she said the intervening night of the 8th and the 9th of May and not the 7th and 8th of May. Now also the Indian Air Force Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, she also informed that in response to Pakistan's attack, the Indian armed drones were launched at 4 air defense sites in Pakistan, and one of the drones was able to destroy an AD radar. Also, she said that Pakistan's army suffered major losses in the Indian retaliatory fire.
Later in the night, an armed UAV of Pakistan attempted to target Bhatinda military station, which was detected and neutralized. In response to the Pakistani attack, armed drones were launched at 4 air defense sites in Pakistan. One of the drones was able to destroy an AD radar. Pakistan also carried out artillery shelling across the line of control using heavy caliber artillery guns and armed drones at Tangdhar, Uri, Poonch, Mendhar, Rajouri, Akhnur and Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir area, which resulted in some losses and injuries to Indian Army personnel. Pakistan Army also suffered major losses in Indian retaliatory fire.
Amidst the smoke and chaos of the conflict, it is easy to lose track of where it started and the direction in which it is headed. On the 22nd of April, Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, terrorists gunned down 26 people. Most of them were Indian tourists. A terror group called the Resistance Front, the TRF, claimed responsibility for the attack. The TRF is a shadow group of the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba. On the 7th of May, the Indian Armed Forces launched Operation Sindoor, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. These actions were focused, measured and non-escalatory in nature. No Pakistani civilian or military facilities were targeted. India demonstrated considerable restraint in the selection of the targets and the method of execution. These words are important to remember: focused, measured and non-escalatory. India does not seek a wider conflict. Now, it is Pakistan who then escalated the conflict on the intervening night of the 7th and 8th of May, targeting India's military installations across multiple cities. India's air defense foiled those attacks. It also intensified cross-border firing. India retaliated with similar force and targets, neutralizing air defense facility of Lahore in Pakistan. Since then, tit-for-tat military actions have followed. Why am I taking you through all of this again? So this is to emphasize, in fact, the point that Pahalgam terrorist attack of the 22nd of April is the original escalation. Well, the Airports Authority of India, the AAI, and relevant aviation authorities have issued a series of notices to airmen, NOTAMs as they are called. Now, the government announced the temporary closure of 32 airports across northern and western India for all civil flight operations effective from the 9th to the 14th of May 2025 due to operational reasons. The Airports Authority of India has also extended the temporary closure of 25 segments of air traffic service ATS routes within the Delhi and Mumbai flight information regions. This is due to operational reasons. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on iOS platforms and as well as Android. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin. Thank you very much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.